Hi everyone, my name is Judah. I use they / them. My usual co-host Chris could not be here, and I forgot where Z went.
He went to Mecha's Pride event.
Yeah.
True, I forgot that was today.
He's tabling.
I was gonna table, and then I forgot about it, but now I'm here.
We said the white guy instead of the Latino person.
No! So real.
Oh, that is true. I forgot about
So
the
real.
event.
So real. Anyways, I look too cute today to not be on camera, so here I am.
Literally.
Alright, team, everyone else, introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm JQ. I use any pronouns, and today we're talking about queer dating and navigating queer romance and problems.
All of that
Just keep adding to the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, this all
That's a
needs
really
to
long
go in the title.
Okay, are we going clockwise, counterclockwise? What are we doing?
I can go next. Okay, my name's Zarelli. I use they, them pronouns.
My name's Lily, and I use any pronouns.
My name is Emma. I use they, she, he pronouns. Oh my god, I almost forgot.
That's so real.
That is so real.
Honestly, so true.
That is so real. I forget all the time.
Yeah.
See, this is why you use any pronouns, so it literally doesn't matter.
That's so real.
I did that, but then I was like, no.
Yeah, I was like, please
I
stop
think
calling
that's
me
it.
she. Like,
Yeah,
please
it's
stop.
like that.
I beg you.
Anyways.
Alright, so this is our episode on queer dating and navigating sex and romance.
Whoa.
I'm so sorry.
Sex
I think
in bold.
there is a neurological issue going on because I've been stuttering and mixing up my words for several weeks now, and it's gotten progressively worse. But it's fine. Anyways, queer dating and navigating sex / romance. All right, I think we talked about this before we started recording the podcast.
Before we went on air.
Yeah, before we went on air.
Before we got in the studio.
Okay, raise your hand if you are in a relationship currently.
And also say something, because this is a podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Sorry for our audio listeners. You actually don't get to know.
Emma
Sorry.
and Judah are-
It's a
Yeah,
mystery.
it's a mystery. Yeah. I introduced myself as Judah, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just had to make sure I did that because I was kind of confused.
Me when I forget my name. So real.
I'm in a relationship
Same.
with my lovely partner of 2 years and several months-ish. Our anniversary is actually next month.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
swag. Swag.
Yeah, it's on 7/11. That's how I remember
hell
it.
yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
No, my sister, who is a lesbian, unfortunately she got married. I'm very happy that she got married, but before that, her anniversary was Hatsune Miku Day, and now it's like a random day.
Damn.
So I'm really sad that she lost out on the Hatsune Miku Day anniversary.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
SMH.
I need to plan it so that I get into a relationship on that day.
Exactly.
So true.
Anyway,
Oh,
say
look
something
at
about
me.
your...
Yes.
I am also in a relationship with my girlfriend for a year and close to 6 months. It's gonna be 6 months this week. So
Yeah.
no, sorry, not this week. This month.
Nice.
Play.
And then everyone
Slay.
else is single, I guess?
Yep. Living the single life.
True.
La vida loca.
So,
What do we start with?
What do we
Dating
start with?
apps?
Queer
I've
dating
got
apps?
dating apps on there.
We
So
do
if we
have
have
dating
opinions
apps on
or
there.
experience with that,
Famously.
Every time
Famously
one of
way.
my friends joins a dating app, it's just the worst idea in the world.
Yeah.
I think dating apps are, fine. I don't think they're the best at, for me at least, I don't find dating apps to be the most conducive to, creating actual tangible relationships, especially depending on which one you're on. I think my twin, who's also chronically single, he was I'm on, Tinder, but everyone there is, looking just for, a hookup. Or, they're just looking for, a short-term relationship. But he's looking for something a little bit more serious, something a little bit more,
A little bit more hand
Yes.
clap.
hand clap. I don't know why I hand clap, but something just a little bit more. I thought it would,
More
conjure
involved.
It's like
up.
for
Yeah,
when two
thank
become
you.
one.
there you go.
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
like that one, huh?
something a little bit more involved. And you know, he also tried the queer ones, and he was only really just making friends on there and, like, more Instagram followers, you know?
Yeah.
So there wasn't, like...
Best possible use of a dating app. Getting
No,
more
for
Instagram
real.
Followers.
For real. I think that's what a lot of people do now. They, like, create Tinder and, like, oh, follow me on Instagram at this handle.
That's kind of cringe.
It is. No,
Sorry,
yeah.
that's like, I'm sure it's valid if you're like, as a marketing campaign, like, I don't know, well, okay, I guess I don't understand why you would do it. Maybe it's not cringe if it's for a reason.
I think, like, sometimes people like chatting on Instagram better than chatting on the dating
okay.
app.
That's
I
true.
know I exchanged Instagrams with somebody I matched with, like, after, like, a couple weeks of talking. Like, we're like, oh, let's talk on Instagram instead. Anyway. I think I already talked about this story, but I was, like, prescribed dating apps by my therapist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
So that's, like, my dating app experience. I did indeed sign up on dating apps after my therapist was like, you need to explore yourself, get on a couple apps, feel it out. And I was like, I did. I haven't been faithfully going to therapy, nor have I been faithfully unfaithful. I'm cheating on my therapist.
Heretically going to therapy.
I know. I haven't been going to therapy or responding to my Bumble matches very well. In fact, if my I tell my Bumble match to watch the podcast, actually.
As you should.
That's great.
And so, my Bumble match, if you're watching this, heart, I'm sorry I don't respond very well. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like dating apps definitely have brands. You know, like there's certain apps that you go on if you're looking for something a little more serious versus apps that you go on if you're looking to just like hook up with somebody, whatever. But I feel like when you're queer, it's all just kind of like very much not serious. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if people can actually like make real relationships happen on dating apps, but then like the specifically queer ones are also kind of heinous because they are just like, oh my god, follow my TikTok, follow my Instagram, like I don't respond on here, like whatever. It's just I don't know.
Yeah, and if you're like, this is not personal experience again because I abhor all apps.
As you should.
If it's an app, I hate it. Yeah, sorry. My friends who are
the weather app.
my friends who are like bi women or lesbian women are out there absolutely struggling on every dating app to find other women who are attracted to women. And it's like, simply could not be me. So many people I know in real life are lesbians or bi women, and like, I cannot willingly put myself in a space where I'm going to have to find straight men. Sorry.
I think there are... Oh, sorry.
That's it. That's all I was
Oh.
gonna say. That's all there is.
I think there are dating apps now that are specifically geared towards, like, sapphic women and femmes.
Yeah, there's her.
Yeah, her.
Not
Which I
femmes.
They don't respond to you, though. Ever.
Oh.
I have nightmares about my her matches.
What?
What? Why?
Do tell.
No, it's literally, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like I get it because, you know, like a lot of people come out later in life being like in your 20s apparently, but come out later, you know, and like don't really know how to flirt with women, and it's like a little much for them, or like non-binary people, whatever. Just misgendering myself casually, it's fine. But like, I don't know. I feel like I get, like on queer apps specifically, like I get so many people who like do not know how to turn it into a date or like a romantic, flirty conversation. Just like, babe, at a certain point.
Yeah, I always found it like hard, especially when, you know, I was dating around before I found my partner. Like, it was always hard with a lot of like, you know, women that I matched with. It was always hard to kind of like go beyond that kind of like friendship route. Like, because it was always hard to decipher whether or not her compliment was like, oh my god, you're like so pretty, was more like,
Yeah.
was like romantic, was it like friendly? Because, you know, in a lot of my friendships with other women that I'm in, that did not come out as the right sentence, but it's fine. I think everyone knows what I mean. You know, we tell each other that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, you look so good. Like, oh my god, I would date you. You know what I mean? But it's not, like, serious.
Okay, I have never told someone that I'm not attracted to, oh my god, I would date you. Just so we're clear.
I've told people that I'm not attracted to that I would give them a little kiss on the lips, and that's as far as it's gone. Because that's a funny phrase.
Yeah.
That is fun.
Yeah.
But that's a fair point. Me personally, I am the problem that you're describing. I have no fucking business. I talked to my girlfriend only when she initiated at the beginning because I was like, oh my god, she's just being friendly. She just cause we met through marching band. Not to out myself as a band kid.
But the gayest sport.
Yeah, a little bit. And we would talk at the parties and stuff. Except I wouldn't talk to her because I was like, she just asked if I was going to be there because she was being nice and polite.
Oh my god.
And
so
that's
real.
what happened in my brain for 3 months.
That's so funny.
Every time we went on a date and then she paid and I was like, what the fuck you doing, bro? It was a very confusing time for me. I didn't know it was a date until afterwards.
Yeah, that's also another thing too, is that
Tears in my
there
eyes.
is kind of that confusing air of is this gonna be a thing? Is this not a thing? Am I overthinking it? Because I also do feel a lot of that anxiety, even still. I've been with my partner for like I said, I've been with my partner for around 2 years now, almost 3 years next month. It's still always am I overthinking this? Am I not thinking about it enough? There's always that kind of anxiety there, and I feel like everyone feels it across that board, that anxiety in relationships or budding relationships, whether or not you're doing enough to keep their attention, or you're doing, and that could just be me, I'm a chronic overthinker. It's just one of those things too that I feel like a lot of other people struggle with, especially if they have anxiety, and all of that. It's kind of how do you know, until you're actually dating that person and they've explicitly told you we're dating, how do you know before that they're looking for something that's exclusive?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the exclusive thing was also something that I just couldn't tell about either, which she was like, you're a fucking idiot. Why would I not want something exclusive? And I was like, bro, I don't know. I didn't know you. Because we had just met each other.
Well, because there are some people who are polyamorous.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they're non-monogamous and they seek out other partners, which is fine. No judgment there. But there is always that conversation too about monogamy, exclusivity, and what that means, and we could have a whole podcast episode about different relationship structures and polycules and all of that.
I think those are so interesting to learn about because I didn't know about them until I didn't know about, I don't know, the different ways that people approach poly, or how broad of an umbrella and how many relationships can encompass under or fall under the label, I guess, of polyamory. And I think that's very fun to figure out the way that people navigate that.
Yeah, no, it's tough because even when you realize oh, you're flirting with me for real, it's okay, but are you flirting with me in you want to date me monogamously way, or is it just a flirty thing? Is it that you're dating multiple people? What's going on there? But it's really hard to ask those questions,
Yeah, because I feel you have to put yourself on the spot, and a lot of people are comfortable with that.
Yeah.
It's because you're in also a very vulnerable position as well. It's not just asking. It's now you're putting yourself out there and making that significant step.
Mm-hmm.
See, the problem I always have in situations like that is that it feels not only I'm putting myself out there, but also I'm putting something on the other person.
Yeah.
Oh,
if
true.
they aren't trying to flirt with me and I think they are and I ask about it, then they're going to be really uncomfortable and reevaluate a lot of their behavior if they're anything like me / an overthinker.
Right.
And so it's the kind of thing where I'm always if I am misinterpreting this, they're going to feel so bad about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is also true too. It's always that kind of you're put in that awkward spot of just because it's always awkward when you to reject someone. I've had to do that several times, and it's always it sucks because you're just oh, I didn't think all that about you, but sure. And it's always so, it feels so bad. Like, it just, like, it like, obviously, yeah, it hurts the other person, but also it's, like, it hurts me personally, too, especially because if you're, like, really good friends with that person, it's like, oh, I thought we were only friends.
Yeah, no, it's, like, it's so bad when it's a stranger, but it's, like, horrible when it's your friend.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's, like, how am I going to look you in the eyes?
Yeah.
True.
Rough.
Deep stuff.
Deep
Tough.
stuff.
What else we got on the notes?
We got a lot of stuff on the notes.
We got a lot of
Well,
stuff
we
on the
talked
notes?
about queer apps.
We did.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think one of the things was having sober spaces versus having like alcohol-based spaces, like bars and parties. So, what are our thoughts?
I think we should have a good mix of both. I do think that, like, sometimes, like, spaces that have alcohol can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, sometimes it's cute to just sit down and, like, talk and, like, hang out and not have to, like, pummel alcohol down your throat. For funsies. Like,
Funsies.
I think, like, I also think, too, that there's an over-reliance on kind of, like, clubs, I guess. And I don't want to sound like a prude, because I like going out and I like having a good time, but sometimes I'm just, like, I just want to sit down.
No,
and
same.
talk to
like,
people.
Like, I'm
Standing
24. I like to drink occasionally, you know, like, I like to have fun. But sometimes it's just, like, not the vibe. Like, I don't want to be, I don't want to need to be, like, in a drinking space or to be drinking to be around, like, queer people, you know? Like, I want to just, like, be able to hang out normally, but that's so hard to find. And even when you find it, it's, like, it's still kind of, like, a toss-up if it's, like, the space for you, you know?
I also feel like to bring it back to, like, dating and all of that, I feel like the club space can be only, like, a hookup-only type space.
Yeah.
Where, like, people are not really looking to, like, talk and, like, you know, get to know you. They're, like, looking just to have sex and that's it. And again, that's fine. It doesn't, you know, for some people that, like, is their thing, and that's okay. But, you know, for other people, like, for me, I found that I didn't really like hookup culture all that much. Like, for me, it felt very, like, uncomfortable, and I really just didn't want to do that. Especially because some people could be kind of, like, skeevy. And so, like, you know, you just kind of just gotta be like, oh, I don't want to do all that with you. And especially, I feel like it can get a little bit, and again, I don't want to sound like a prude or I'm coming from, like, the temperance movement or whatever, but I feel like alcohol can create a really, like, depending on who, like, you're with, it can create a really, like, hostile environment. And I feel like with alcohol, like, it's really hard, too, to kind of navigate, like, sex as well, because, like, you can't, like, when you're drunk, you can't actually, like, consent to anything.
Yeah.
Like...
And also, like, alcohol, at least for... never mind. I'm not going to confess to crimes live on air.
At least
Actually,
you've heard
that
from
I-
your
Underage
21
on this
plus
podcast
friends.
Yes.
has never drank a
No.
drop of alcohol ever. Actually.
Alcohol in general, not from personal experience, kind of, like, fucks with motor control and so forth, and I feel like trying to navigate people's boundaries when you've just met them, and both of you are, like, moderately impaired, possibly physically, possibly mentally, is truly, I don't understand why people do that.
Yes. Maybe not the safest, not always the safest position to be put in.
I also feel like in, like, sober spaces, too, like, it might be just a little bit easier for people to kind of talk, and it might feel it's, like, a lot safer, too, I think, especially for, like, young queer people, right? Like, okay, older queer people, you know, they can kind of choose to not have, well, I guess younger people can choose, too, but I feel like younger people don't have enough spaces to, like, kind of congregate that don't involve alcohol. Like, I feel like college really pressures you to kind of, like, do the party thing and go out and drink, you know, underage drink while you're, like, 18 and young and dumb. I ended up in the hospital one time because of that. And so I think, like, it can get, like, kind of dangerous for younger queer people, and especially if they don't know what they're doing, they're, like, you know, they don't have, you know, good safety network around them. Like, these spaces can be very dangerous. You know, these unsober spaces can just be very, like, bad for them. And so I don't know, I feel like we should offer more, like, just normal, non-alcoholic, non-drug spaces that people can just sit in and, like, talk and relax. Maybe play, like, a board game or two. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I really like the idea of, like, I've seen but never in, like, an area that I live in. I'm sure there's countless in LA. Well, not countless, but more in LA than, you know, anywhere else. You know what? I'm gonna stop talking about that. I'm just gonna keep adding modifiers. I really like the idea of, like, queer cafes and stuff like that, where it's, like, you know, like a coffee shop or something like that, and it's just, like, a space to, like, hang out. I think that's, like, such a cute idea.
Yeah, no, I used to go to community college, like, right around the corner of Cuties LA back when they had, like, a physical coffee shop.
Oh.
And it was, like, such a nice, cool space to go to, but it shut down, like, so quickly because they just could not afford to stay open because, like, it's so hard to keep, like, a queer, sober space open. Like, it's hard to keep a queer space open in general, but, like, a sober space, like, that's even harder. It's rough.
Yeah. The fact is, alcohol is extremely overpriced, which makes it a good profit margin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
So true. I don't know. I'm like a nerd, so like I don't really like go out clubbing or do stuff. But I like, for me, it's really like a sober space is like more comfortable for me because I just like kind of chilling. I get kind of overstimulated in like loud environments. Really, really hitting the nerd like marks here. But
I don't think that's like a nerd thing. It's like normal.
Thank you. Yeah. So I just want like a nice chill environment to like get to know people. And honestly, this was just something I was thinking about, which is like I'm gonna be so sad when I graduate because I'm gonna miss OutWrite and just being in like a room full of queer people and just like chatting and being open about like stuff. I mean, like, I feel like I'm going to really like look into like my LGBT like resource centers, like community centers. And I think that could be like an example of like a sober space where like you can meet like LGBT people. And then like honestly, I mean, like, I know one of my, like, centers, like, in the Bay Area, they have, like, gay bingo.
So, sounds incredible.
And I'm like, to meet your lover over gay bingo. Like, kind of a dream.
That feels on brand for you.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, I am pro sober space, but I'm also pro, like, not sober spaces, like, you know. I'm like, yes, go out, have fun.
Yeah, I think it's good to have fun every like once in a while, you know. Sometimes I feel like some people can over rely on that as like a way to de-stress, you know. Because I don't want to party all the time. I just want to like, sometimes I just want to chill. And even in between, like, there's not a lot of like in between spaces either. Like, especially in WeHo, a lot of it is like drinking and dancing, but there's no like actual like bars where you can just like sit down and like actually like talk to people.
Yeah, no, it's so loud.
Very true.
Yeah, it's like, it's
so
there's
loud.
just always like, it's always banging down there in WeHo. Like, I just want to go to a normal bar, man. I don't want to like. I don't want to go.
Quiet, nice.
Yeah.
Like, there's food.
I don't want to see a
Imagine that.
half-naked go-go dancer. Like, I just want to like sit down and talk. You know.
Yeah. No, that's so real.
Bar, but with queer people in it.
Yeah. I second Lily's point about sensory issues so hard.
Yeah.
It's like loud spaces. No.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm like a big talker. Like, I love to hear, like, I like to talk a lot. Like, maybe too much. And like, and you can't talk when you're at a club.
No, you
just
can't.
Like, yeah, it's too loud. So I just be like, what do I do? Like, this is my safety mechanism, is like speaking. And like, yeah, I'm not a big dancer either.
Yeah, and as like somebody who doesn't really experience like physical attraction to like a stranger like that.
No, so real.
It's like, why are we here? Like, why are we doing this right now? Like, I want to talk to you. I want to get to know you. Like, that's the only way that anything's going to happen there. So why are we here?
That's so real. I think that might be, like, I was, like, throwing around, like, am I, like, arrow? Because I never really felt, like, a desire to date. And, like, it's not something that I've really seen for myself that much. But then I kind of can imagine it. And I'm like, it'd be nice. But I think that you hit, like, a big point, which is I don't feel, like, physical attraction to, like, strangers. Like, I don't really see, like, a random person. And then I'm like, oh, I want to date them. Like, I might be like, oh, they're very beautiful. Like, oh, like, kind of cute.
Yeah, like, oh, that's crazy that your face did that. But
Literally.
like, otherwise, it's like, okay, see ya.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things I do really like about the queer community is there's sort of a broader range of types of relationships that are seen as, not like valid, but it's like queer platonic relationships where you have a lasting partnership with someone who you aren't necessarily romantically dating or like having sex with is a relationship type that I really wish like cis heteronormative society could consider. I feel like there was like
Big
a bit
time.
there in the 1600s where everyone was so
In the
sexist.
1600s.
Where everyone was so sexist that it wrapped around again to being like having your bestie who's your life partner totally cool and accepted. And then people got like 20% less sexist, so we're at like the current level of sexism, and that like got forgotten somewhere along the way.
Wow. Yeah.
This is my unified theory.
I just think a lot of it,
That was
like,
so good.
I think in the United States specifically, because I can't really speak to like other countries, because I think some of them are more collectivists than, you know, the ones we have now. So it is more acceptable to just live with like a friend or like to live with family, depending. But in the United States specifically, like they value like the nuclear family or like models of nuclear family like so much. Like I've talked about this before, but I do have conflicting feelings about gay marriage being legalized because of how it kind of legitimizes some of the cruelty that happens if you're not married. Like if you live outside of a traditional marriage. Like I was listening to a podcast one time that was talking about how a lesbian couple, they had to divorce because when they got married, when gay marriage was legalized, but I guess they were making together, because you file joint taxes once you're married, together they were making too much money and they were losing, one of the partners was disabled. So they were losing that disability money and they couldn't survive and they couldn't live off what they were making, you know, with jobs and everything, and the disability was just getting too much. So they had a divorce. And so, like, yeah, it's kind of interesting how, like, there's not really much. It's kind of interesting how, like, that kind of just only really applied to, like, cis, able-bodied queer people, and not so much, like, other people who kind of fall outside that, like, margin. And, you know, we also talked about, too, like, this, like, idea that queer people need to model the nuclear family to be accepted. Like, they need to have the children, the two kids. You know, they have to have that kind of, like, they have to have that, like, modeled relationship for them to be valid in the eyes of straight people, right? Like, those are the only queers that are valid because they have families. A lot of it is just, like, respectability politics and all of that jazz. All that to say, like, yeah, you can't really, like, have a queer platonic relationship in the U.S., like, without it being so, like, without people being judgmental about it, because, like, people, like, love the idea of, like, the nuclear family and, like, living in, like, single-unit homes, you know, where only, like, mom, dad, sister, brother, like, all live together. Maybe they have a dog. Who knows?
But definitely no
capitalism.
grandparents.
Yeah, with no
Yeah.
grandparents and all of that. I mean, like, I'm Latino, so, like, I live with my grandparents. I lived in a house that had, like, 9 people in it. Like, that was not the norm for me, but I know for a lot of, like, my friends who weren't, like, Latino, like, that wasn't the norm for them.
Yeah.
They had, like, you know, they have parent, child, child, and pet.
Yeah, no, this is like maybe not super related, but like it's so wild to me just to think about how there are so many people that I know that it's like they don't talk to their sibling at all. Their sibling lives like in an entirely different state.
Yeah.
Their parents moved away to like an entirely different state or country or whatever, and it's just like that's normal. Whereas in Latino culture it's like so normal to everybody to be like close together.
Yeah.
And like it's just wild. Like they only see their grandparents like once every like holiday or whatever, as opposed to like living with them.
Yeah,
Queer
but, like,
dating.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just interesting from like
Yeah.
that perspective, but also like back to like tying it back to like the queer community. I also feel like too like a lot of people don't take this idea of found family seriously.
Yeah. Like
at least not in terms of like in an institutional sense, right? Like these families don't get, the same assistance as like normal families do, right? Because they can't prove that they're all related to each other, or they can't prove that they've all been like together, right? Like they have to kind of rely on like themselves to get through, like especially like for like queer people who have been like kicked out of their homes and they found other queer people to like live together with. Like it's so hard in an institutional sense to survive.
yeah.
Just because again there's no institutional backing or support for families that are not necessarily this traditional like biological nuclear family. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it also like affects our relationships too, because now like I feel like sometimes for a lot of people that's what they seek is like that model like relationship. Or that model of like a lot, even I feel like even in queer relationships there can be a lot of like perpetuating or of these like ideas.
Yeah, there's definitely like that feeling sometimes when you're dating of it's like, okay, who's the boy and who's the girl?
The girl, yeah.
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 It's weird to try. It's weird to try to break out of that mindset.
Yeah.
I feel like where I thought Judah was going to go with this.
Sorry.
No, not like gender roles within a relationship, but forming a relationship that has to be a completely independent unit where neither of you like need support from other outside places, because you're supposed to be emulating this nuclear family, this like completely self-sufficient and closed unit, which is wild because that's not how people work.
Yeah. I know we should... Oh, sorry. No, continue.
I just don't think, like, putting all of your emotional needs on one person. Okay, actually, we are back to the who's the boy and who's the girl question.
Yeah, no. I remember we talked about that in anthropology. Like, it was, like, the nuclear family and how it's just completely unnatural for the human psychology to put all of their emotional needs on this one dream person that is, like, which is just... It's monogamy, but it's also just, like... the nuclear family where you leave your family. So now this person has to fulfill the emotional needs that maybe your mom or your dad or your uncle or your aunt or your cousins used to fulfill. And now it's just on them. And then like your two kids. And like, that's not fair to put on one person or like those kids that you have if you have kids. So like, and then that's why a lot of people feel like isolated in like capitalist societies. And like, because you are only depending on one person. And that's why they say like, they feel like divorce is so high, especially in the US. Like, there's definitely reasons that are variables. Divorce being high isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Because, freedom, letting, people choose to be able to leave a relationship, that's so important. But a lot of people also think that part of it is just that people are really unhappy because their relationship is their only source of connection to the world. And we really don't emphasize familial or friendship relationships in the US. It's all about romance, and that romance is all one person. So it's a lot of pressure to put on your marriage, which can lead to problems. Not that there aren't extra problems just with misogyny and like society in general. But, like, that was something we talked about in anthropology, and I thought that was interesting and, like, kind of relevant to what we were talking about. In terms of, like, queer relationships, I guess it's just, like, the same thing. Like, because queer people are pressured to emulate straight relationships, it just goes back to, like, putting all this pressure on this one queer person that has to, like, fulfill the needs of, like, your whole life. And it's just kind of, like, not realistic. And so I guess that goes into, like, the importance of queer community. Like, because maybe a lot of queer people can't rely on their families. So, like, having queer friendships is so important because it's important to have multiple connections, not just the romantic ones. So I think that's kind of getting a little off topic.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, it does... Go ahead, Lorelei. Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's, like, a really good point, because I feel like as queer people, like, when you're searching for a community, it's really easy to, like, accidentally or inadvertently, like, try to turn that community into something romantic, because you just kind of feel like you have to, you know, like, whatever. But it's, like, it's totally valid to have these people just be your friends or just be your family. Like, they don't need to be your partner.
Yeah, no. Personal experience with both of those topics, because, like, I realized more recently that my past relationships were kind of just, like, I really like being your friend, and I want this to, like, and I've said this on the podcast before, but, like, and I wanted it to, like, I wanted to be, like, even more friends, but then, like, there's nothing really, like, there's no distinction, there's no above that, and I saw, like, romantic relationship as a step above that, a way to intensify the relationship more, but then I realized, like, as I got into the relationship, that I actually did just want to be friends, and then, you know, we were in a relationship, and then it was, you know, and then as for, like, I don't know, queer friendships and community and being isolated when you're in a relationship, like, one of the things for me personally about being in a relationship with my girlfriend is that, like, I obviously I love her, you know, we're not, you know, and I, like, think about, like, I hope she's not listening to this, because that would be embarrassing.
Oh
she told me she
like,
doesn't
have a crush on her.
Stop! No, I mean, this is
Do you like your girlfriend?
Stop!
Do you like
oh my
her?
god! Oh my god! Whatever.
Oh my God.
Whatever. It's kicking my feet, twirling my hair around my finger. Whatever. I think about the possibility of, like, living with her after college, but then, and I think that would be super fun. But then it also kind of makes me sad to think about, like, not living with roommates anymore and not having that, like, natural community that I've found with, like, having, like, your friends. Because I have, like, 5 roommates. So, like, there's, like, always somebody around, you know? And it's, like, kind of like a community in and of itself. Like, even though I wasn't friends with them before, I am now. And, like, almost all of them are queer. So, like, that counts. That's on topic. Yeah, I don't know. So, the idea of going to, like, a 2-person buying unit, because, you know, that's where the nuclear family kind of evolved from. Just kind of, I don't know. It seems a little lonely, I guess.
I'm going to get into NSFW talk for a bit. And but hear me out.
Disclaimer.
I'm plugging in the print, because I actually, I co-wrote this article with another writer.
Oh, yeah.
We wrote an article about sex. One of the interesting,
Not the S word.
Sorry. I just wanted to say it's NSFW in case some people aren't comfortable with sex.
I prefer the term scootily pooping.
What?
No.
What? Personally, my favorite euphemism for sex is a devil's tango. I think that's so funny.
Did that just come from, like, your brain?
Oh,
like,
no, it's from Crash Course.
Oh, that's
No!
great. That's even better.
Interesting.
You know, when, like, in fanfiction, when they would call it, like, smex?
Yes!
Oh,
I'm so old. I remember they were calling
Slash
NSFW fanfictions lemons.
Lemon.
I was
about
about
to
to
say
say lemon.
Oh my
Lemons
god,
and
no way.
limes.
Yeah.
Lemons and limes. Okay, anyways, sorry. So in this article, the co-writer, Brenna, who's an amazing writer, by the way.
We love
Shout
Brenna.
out to them.
Shout out.
I don't even know anything about Destiny, but that article that they wrote was, like, so entertaining.
No,
that
it
I
was
actually finished the whole
amazing.
thing. It was great.
Brenna introduced me to this book that talked about sex and queer relationships and what that looks like. And one of the things that some of the writers have pointed out is how we've assigned genders to certain actions in sex. Like penetration, we assign like male. And like, sorry, it's really uncomfortable talk for a bit. We assign it with being male while we, like, assign, like, things like fingering, I guess, to, like, female, or, like, the way that, like, even in terms of, like, position, too, like, we assign male and female position. There is no just, like, person position. It's always, like, male, female position. Even if you, like, really think about it, the dichotomy of, like, submissive versus dominant is also very gendered. Like...
Or, like, topping and bottoming.
Yeah, topping and bottom, like, those are also very gendered, you know, things that happen in sex. They shouldn't be gendered, but they are. Like, the person who is usually being dominated is someone who is more feminine. Who is the more feminine of the couple, while the person who is topping is the more masculine of the couple. Again, not always the case, but in a majority of the cases, that's how it works. I always think that's so interesting. Sorry, you're just talking about, like, assigning, like, gender roles to, like, queer people. It also happens in sex as well.
No.
Sex is on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It happens in sex as well.
Add that to the title.
Wasn't it already in the title?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, there you go.
I think I just got into the problems.
Real.
No, like, actually, that's, like, so real, though, because I feel like a lot of people who just kind of, like, recently came out, usually, or, like, other people, anyway, like, a lot of queer people, basically, kind of, like, feel like they need to define if they're, like, a top or a bottom, but the way that they talk about it, it just kind of seems like they're seeing it as another gender role, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you can deviate from that. Like, you don't need to, like, strictly assign yourself to, like, one or the other. It's totally fine, you know?
I feel like I almost feel the same way about that as I do about those lesbian couples where they're both, like, performing very sort of standard, like, white cis femininity, and they're like, oh, we're, like, not like those other lesbian couples.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about, like, gay men on Grindr who will be like, oh, no, like, no femmes, mask only.
Yeah.
Like, it's just gender roles again.
Yeah, it's just so weird because, like, we as a community always talk about going above these, like, gender roles and, like, dismantling them, but we still, even in our personal relationships, still assign ourselves these roles. Like, I've had to, like, check my own self and be like, all right, this is not what's like, in my own relationship, and be like, all right, that is not what's happening. Like, you know, I mean, obviously, like, we've taken on different, like, my partner loves to cook. He's the cook. I'm not. I can't really cook. I don't really like it. I think it's like too much work. I don't know how he does it. He loves it. I'm like, I don't have the energy.
It's the chopping things that gets me.
That's
the
most
okay. That's also because my
art.
apartment only has dull knives.
Oh,
So
no.
maybe that doesn't help. Actually, I think some of them are kind of sharp. But that just makes the chopping Anyways,
yeah, so he does the cooking, and, like, I'm the one with the job, so I usually buy all the ingredients
one
and
with
stuff.
a job.
Sorry, I don't mean to call him jobless.
There's
He's
a breadwinner.
He's studying for the LSATs right now, so he hasn't really had time to, like, apply for a job.
Employed in the future.
He'll be employed in the future, just not now. The point is, like, I'm the one that has, you know, a lot more disposable income than he does. Again, not his fault. It's not me calling him broke or whatever. But, like, I've had to kind of, like, check myself and be like, all right, like, I don't want to, like, ever imply that, like, he doesn't put in as much of the work as I do. Just because I'm the one who, like, buys the groceries and, like, all of that. Like, I don't want to ever imply that, like, he's the feminine counterpart, like, of the relationship. When none of us, like, necessarily are. Like, does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to, like, ever, like, imply that, like, you know, that, oh, haha, like, he's the woman and I'm the man. Like, it's just, like,
Right.
that feels weird and icky. I don't want to do that to him. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Really interesting. Really interesting.
I do think gender roles are just kind of funny. Like, in a hee kind of haha kind of way. Like, they're so unserious to me.
Yeah.
So that
They are so unserious.
They are so unserious. So then I just be like, So if I do be like, oh, I want to, I joke that I want to be a distant father to my children.
Oh my god, wait, that's such a role. I love being people's, like, dad. You know?
I want to be the father, but like, what does that mean? I don't know. And then I also would say that like I've never had sex nor yearn to have sex really, but I
Yearn
feel
is such a good word for that.
yearning
Imagine
anyway.
yearning to have sex.
Yearning to have sex.
Amazing. Anyway, yeah, no, but like. Just from like what people talk about, I'm like, oh, like I'm top, like I'm a dom. Just like I'm like energy wise, and I'm like, but in an unserious haha kind of way.
I do
So,
think
like-
that some people can be like really like if they just met you, they're like, oh, I can tell you're bottom. Like I always hate that.
See, that's like. Yeah, see, that's like, yeah, I think it's very unserious. Like, if someone takes it seriously or tries to judge other people, then it's like icky. Like,
Yeah.
icky's
Yeah.
no
And you're
good.
being
Big
silly in a
L.
bad way.
There was a tweet.
Yeah.
Sorry, you said like I want to be like a distant father or whatever. That made me really laugh. And it reminded me of a tweet that was like, I'm an uncle but an aunt kind of way. And I was like, oh, that's so real.
Yeah,
That's
I
so real.
love
That's real as
describing
fuck.
things like that.
See,
I
gender
have
roles
no
are just
idea
like,
what that means.
I
You
But
don't
also,
understand what you're
all my
saying.
family lives on like the complete opposite coast, so you know.
True.
Here I am.
On the
Being-
podcast.
I like playing with gender roles in like a funny way. They are my playground. Like,
Yeah.
I just like, I want a house husband.
I think
No.
something that kind of like pulled me away from like the concept of dating men, as a lesbian myself, was
Lesbian.
the thought of like just being forced into this like gender role of like, oh, like I have to be the woman in this relationship because you're a man. I feel like that's just like so common. It's not the vibe.
No, yeah, big time. It just reminded me of like all the stories on like the internet where it was like dudes respecting their cis men, respecting their, or like the bi goth girlfriend and gamer boy stereotype, like where like cis men will date a non-binary AFAB person and say that they respect them being non-binary, but then refer to them as their girlfriend or like talk to, just basically treat them like they would a cis woman and just not really kind of get the concept that just because they're AFAB doesn't mean that they are a
Female.
woman, yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It just, that was also the thing that drew me away from dating men, was because I felt like they wouldn't be able to get out of that gender role mindset and I wouldn't be able to either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like for non-binary people, I always feel like it's always hard to kind of date because I feel like a lot of people don't.
Don't
The
get
people
it.
that you date don't. If they're cis, like they don't really get it.
Yeah.
Like, granted, my partner has always asked and has always been, like, has always asked me like clarifying questions, but like, in other relationships that I've been in, it was always like they didn't get it and they didn't make an effort to get it, which also kind of sucked. Because I was like, oh, well, I'm not a girl?
Yeah, no, it's like, it's really tough because, like, I get it, like, I get that you look at me and you're like, she, her, like, that totally makes sense. But it is, like, a little painful, like, when I really like somebody and they're like, she, and then they correct themselves, like, because they're usually, like, good people, they correct themselves. It's like, oh, like, that is how you're perceiving me, and I just have to deal with that, like, oh.
Yeah,
Love
I've had
that.
to kind of get out of, like, I kind of had to get out of that, like, of, like, thinking about how other people perceive me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that they're not gonna perceive me as non-binary. And, like, usually they're not gonna perceive me as non-binary unless I say it specifically. And I do. Like, I don't necessarily dress androgynously.
which is a definitely real thing. It's definitely not just also a made-up
Like-
gender role.
Yeah, like my tits are basically
No,
out
that's-
right now. Like, it's just like
As they should be. Happy
Yeah,
Pride.
true. Happy Pride,
Happy
y'all.
Pride!
Happy
We haven't
Pride.
said that yet this episode.
Happy Pride,
That's
y'all.
crazy.
We're
Happy
against Pride
Pride.
Month.
You
Yeah,
get
Anti-pride.
my boobs.
Yeah!
We are not proud.
We're gay and,
We are
and
humble.
humble. We're humility.
I'm the like we're actually all allies.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
We're
We're
speaking
not.
over
Happy
actual
Pride.
queer people.
No, but like I've had to get out of that kind of like mindset, especially when like dating too, and like it's taken a while to kind of like to get comfortable, I guess, with like to get comfortable with not necessarily being non-binary, but with how other people think of me as non-binary. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I like, for me, I consider this like my costume. Like, this is like me, like, because I like and consider myself like non-binary, gender fluid, but like more towards like the mask. And like, even though but the hyper femme is like, it's like almost like dressing in drag to me.
I feel that.
Yeah, so I'm like, and I go by she, her sometimes because like drag queens go by she, her. So like, so that's like that to me. So that makes me feel more comfortable the way people perceive me, because I'm like, oh, like it gives me control. Like I feel like, oh, I'm in control. Like I want you to perceive me. This is my amazing like femme costume. Like, yeah, I don't know. That helped me. But like for people who don't want to be like outwardly femme, I feel like I just got lucky that I don't mind that kind of costuming, or that I like femininity. But it's kind of sucky because when I want to be masculine, like I want to look like a guy dressed as a girl, but I just look like a girl dressed as a girl. So I'm like, L. But it's okay. I just want, so it's whatever. Yeah. It's something to think about, and I think that's like,
for sure.
It's something to unpack for sure.
something to unpack. And I think that does stop me from dating sometimes, because I don't know if like I would have to find somebody that gets that.
Yeah.
And like I think I would need to find somebody else who's also gender fluid or non-binary, because like I don't know. Yeah. It's an interesting little thing. Yeah. I don't want to be somebody's. I had like a whole mental breakdown because I realized I don't want to be somebody's wife. Like I don't want to be their little girlfriend. And like that literally drives me insane, like thinking about being somebody's like girlfriend. I'm like, no. But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
I
driving
think
Lily
no,
to
no.
the unpacking factory.
Unpacking factory.
Unpacking
no.
factory, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I like the dressing and like the she, her, like, because like on the days where I dress the most feminine, like the hyperfemme days of my expression are like are oftentimes the days where I feel not super feminine or female on the inside, I guess, but I'm like having fun, having like cute little makeup and dress, and it's like a very cute little time, and even if it's like not like reflective of what's happening in my brain, it's like it's not a dissonance, they work together.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting seeing like the dysphoria change from like day to day, because there are some days where like I love wearing my little colorful makeup, my earrings, whatever,
Yeah.
and then there are other days where like I see it and I start putting it on and I'm like, no, like this is not happening right now, and I just have to like scrub it all off and look like super grimy, and like I put my hair up, I like tuck it in, like I just like I can't deal with it. It's definitely, it's fun. It's like super fun.
Gender is such a fun experience,
It's
know?
crazy, bro. To steer it back towards queer relationships.
Oh,
yeah, I just had a
what
comment that I
about
was
the
thinking
queer
of.
relationship with the body?
Yeah,
Oh,
true.
that's
Is that not the
most
queerest
obvious.
relationship
The
of
most
all?
queer.
That is
Oh,
so
real.
fucking true. To steer it back to relationships and the idea of being put into a gendered box. Anyways, I kind of, if to bring it back towards a more positive note, I feel like with with my girlfriend, it's kind of like, that's the thing that I found really freeing about this relationship in particular, is that I just feel like I can kind of do whatever I want with myself, and she will still want to be with me, which is like super fun and cool and epic. Oh fuck, what was I gonna say about that? Oh, but particularly in regards to non-binary identity, she is cis, but it never really feels like she's putting me into a box or anything. Like, you know, because obviously the same problem with being non-binary and AFAB non-binary and dating a cis man could apply to, you know, of the box could apply to being like non-binary and dating like a cis woman. You know, they could see you in the same way. And I don't know, I've never really felt like that. It's also kind of just like, I don't have to think that hard about, like, because I feel like a lot of the time I'm like thinking about the way that I'm presenting and the way that I want to present, not in a bad way, but just in the sense like, oh, am I like presenting in the way that I want to right now? Not so much in regards to other people, but I feel like I don't really have to think about it as much, like not to get cheesy, but like, so like I don't have to like think about it as much when I'm with her. Like, it's not like woman and non-binary person, it's just kind of like us.
That is so cute.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so poggers of you.
So poggers of me. You heard him. So poggers.
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 You're the little pog champion.
Literally pog champ. God. What a good word.
Amazing.
Pog.
Isn't it pog to be in love?
Happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride! Pog champ pride.
Hope you have a pog pride.
I think we did cover all the bases of like queer dating and relationships and the complexities and all of that.
The highs and lows.
The
Highs and lows of American football.
Wow, Riverdale was so wild. Sorry.
So fucking
Did
weird.
love
Riverdale
Riverdale.
finally end?
I don't know. I think
That's a good question.
It's
I
on
think
this
there were
final season.
lesbians on Riverdale.
I
There
don't
were.
care. You know how bad a piece of media has to be for me to not care if there are lesbians?
Glee had lesbians.
They did.
They did.
Famously.
I forgot about
Maybe
Glee, to be
infamously.
honest. I keep forgetting about Glee.
How could you?
I feel like the world. I feel like if people forget about. I feel like once people like start forgetting about Glee, the world is healing.
I feel like Glee-
I'll never
Yeah.
forget.
You know the game, TM, the one where it's like if you think about the game you've lost.
Yeah.
I feel that way about Glee.
You're already losing if you're thinking about
yeah,
Glee.
if you're thinking about Glee, you've lost.
I like celebrated Pride Month starting by listening to the Glee cover of Born This Way.
That's
So
fucking hilarious.
it's great.
So
We love Glee.
No.
I'm speaking
Alrighty.
for OutWrite right now.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
representative.
You're speaking on behalf of the whole organization.
Yes, we all love Glee.
Chris is about to be pissed.
Does he not like Glee?
Not the Glee, the conversation.
Oh,
This is the
it's funny now.
Yes.
We're being silly and goofy.
Let me just dox his Venmo again real quick.
Alright. Did I sign off?
Yeah.
I think we got it.
Alright, y'all. You've heard it here first. That's our takes on queer dating and
Queer
navigating sex and romance.
And the problems.
And the problems with all of that. We did get off topic quite a bit. I'm sorry, Chris.
It's fine.
We're not sorry.
Jake, you actually speak on behalf of the whole
Yeah, I
organization.
speak on behalf of OutWrite when I say, thanks, Chris, but you're graduating. We're not sorry.
Jake is
Anyhow.
gonna be podcast head.
Yeah.
We
I
cannot
know.
finish his outro properly. That's so
No, we
funny.
can't, no.
Anyways, I'm gonna redo that outro. Chris won't cut all that out.
Oh my god. I just learned how to do it. and I
It's like a
already forgot.
10-minute
No.
episode.
Wait,
10 minutes.
It's
Oh, it's also like
Oh my
this
God.
too.
There's also this one.
You
yeah.
find-
Oh my god. Yes. We've been
Oh,
OutWrite.
can we do this to sign off? Like everyone just
Yeah,
does
we
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
our
read the
hands.
flag.
Alright. Okay, hold on.
Outro time.
Outro time. Outro for real, for real.
For real.
Alright.
Yeah.
I have been
My ring
Judah.
broke.
This has been the OutWrite podcast, and this was our episode on queer dating and navigating sex/romance. Also, happy Pride to
Happy
those who
Pride.
celebrate.
Those who celebrate. That's a funny way to put it.
I already tweeted this earlier.
Not
like,
Target.
I was like, We gotta pack it up for
And
Pride.
happy
The discourse is
Toyota
getting too
summer
much.
sales event for those who do not.
Anyways, yeah, I've been Judah, and this was my lovely team for today. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram,
TikTok.
at OutWrite
Facebook?
Facebook, maybe?
Facebook?
I'm pretty sure we have a
do.
Facebook.
Crazy.
At OutWrite Newsmag, and you could read our articles on OutWriteNewsmag.com. Also, can somebody pass me a copy of one of those prints, please?
Yes.
Oh my god, true.
Oh.
We have so many of them.
If you're on campus at UCLA, you will see these lovely prints in the stands. Feel free to take one. It's our color print. Happy Pride, y'all. We released it. Yeah, so feel free to take that. Anyways, yeah.